Okay, hello everyone. Just come into the uni nice and early. I'm doing a talk here today with Melissa, and this will be just one of the health consultations. If you go to the merchandising page in consciousazine, then you can see some of the services that I offer. And there's two consultations, a more advanced one and a general one. I'm just going to today say this is a general one, but the thing is I always skip into the gnosis and the deep stuff anyway, so. Right, so me and Melissa have been discussing over the last few days a lot of stuff, but in particular very esoteric stuff. We're both spiritual people, and in my opinion that means that you're centered in your own light column, and instead of just being made up horizontally of others. So there's a nice little definition I run with for spirituality, because people say, what spirituality? You believe in this, you believe in that. No, there's no beliefs, it's just being centered in your own light column, and then all the stuff happens, all the crazy stuff happens, all the divas, all the angels, all the this and all the that. That's what I've found anyway. So we've been having some really deep sort of esoteric spiritual talks, and esoteric just means, you know, sort of under the covers or beyond the veil and that sort of thing. Not the mainstream. However, I think today's mainstream is becoming an eddy. So it's an eddy, it's not becoming, it's no longer the mainstream, it's becoming just an eddy, and it's in antithesis to the flow and antagonistic to the universal river flow of light. You know, these sick societies and the cultures that people think can go on forever, like, who won the football last night? Who cares? Fucking hell. Anyway, yeah, and that's it, they're creating a fucking, or fracking, hell. Because we're fracking everywhere, and we're lopping mountaintops, and we're doing this. You know, I'm going to the Amazon to even try and help save that and work with the shamans of the Amazon after I finish my degree. Anyway, so thanks a lot, Melissa, for donating. I'm currently a student, and everyone might not understand the deal. People donate to me. I'm the site creator of consciousazine.com, and I keep trying to help people and lift people up, and you know, I believe that we're all part of the same system. And so what's good for someone else is good for you, you know? When you help people up, and that's why we share knowledge and stuff, isn't it? So, yeah. What did you want to ask anything, or what did you want to say? Do you want to say hello, or? Yeah, hey. We won't get her to say fush and chaps or sex. Oh, really? Okay. And see, I think we need to get beyond the whole cultural thing, because it really keeps us back, and there's so many flawed traditions, you know. Just because something's a tradition, people act like, hey, respect your elders and you know, do this flawed tradition. Yeah, no, fuck no, thank you. You know, just be, I don't just respect my elders, I respect anyone at any age. They can be 5 years old if they you know, act right, so to speak, you know, if they are respectful, so to speak, like. Yeah, fully. Yeah, it's like shifting out of the grid. There's a good example for me to show people what shifting out of a grid is. That's a grid, like, do this, respect your elders, and a very hard line box. Now, what I tell everyone is we're stepping out of the box of history into the universe. That's what this addendum to history, the cycle ending and the oscillation of the time wave ending in maximum novelty domain, or the eschaton, which is from eschatology, that word, which means the end of history basically, If you look it up, it's basically telling you about the end of history, and it's got revelation with the apocalypse. And humanity appears to be walking into the apocalypse scenario. I really do think that possibly in the next year, or by the end of 2017, and it's currently the 2nd of the 8th, 2015, I think by the end of 2017 we're going to see possibly cashless society and microchipping, so that you can, and they'll bring it on the populace. I've got videos of, like, officials talking about it, so they are considering it. It's not just some crazy conspiracy from what I've seen. It's a little bit daunting from my angle. So they want to make it so you can walk in the store for your shop fetish, and that you don't have to even pay because you're such a lazy, dumbed down monkey these days. They've got us on the fluoride, so you don't even care about the fluoride in the water. That's how bad it is these days. Pardon me, I've had a late night. I had to console my shaman friend. And, yeah, so here I am. Anyway. Yeah, I'm just getting my energies right with the coughing and stuff. See, right now I need to be clearing my 0 point of my nose, and you can watch this video after, Melissa, because we're lucky we've got me on the screen so I can show everything. I can't show my whole body, but yeah, I'm mostly on the screen, or a bust, anyway. Anyway, so let's talk about something you want to talk about for a minute. That was just a general introduction, everyone, about sort of what I'm about. I'm an amalgam man who, I'm not in any grid. I've shifted out of all the grids. I have an archetype of Shah man, or Maitreya Christ, or Maitreya Christ, or I have a saying, elves move swiftly, you cannot see us. So I have elf archetype, I have gnome archetype sometimes. I shift through all these grids and all these energies. And what we found out from McKenna was that the time wave was this addendum to all the resonances. If you watch the video, he goes into resonance theory, wherein hemlines of skirts are rising and falling, to the beat of empires rising and falling long ago. That's pretty peculiar and stranger than you can suppose, as he said, Yeah, it's intense, isn't it? Like, how do you deconfigure that? It means, to me, that there are circles. Because if something's repeating, to me it looks like Terence McKenna got a 9th dimensional oscillation or something. A 9th dimensional time wave that turns into an oscillation here at our end. At the 9th dimensional end, it's like a circle in hyperspace, completely numinous and intangible. But that's the higher dimensions. Once you cross that 6th dimensional grid, the gates of heaven, and it is. And then you get into that 7th dimensional, it's this airy-fairy feel of colours, and it's the tunnel harmonics into particularity and particles and the wave, the wave-particle duality. And it's giving that feel, the 7th dimension of the colour light. And, above that I think is the 8th dimensional schematics. How we put sand on a speaker, and the sand moves into a certain geometry from a certain tone. And I think the word is the primal creator. And the tones, and well, I don't understand fully the 10th, 11th and 12th dimension. I've been thinking about it, but I don't want to get it wrong in front of everyone. So I'm not really spilling it off yet. Anyway, so this is what I do. This is what I'm about, just to introduce the video. And now we're going to let Melissa talk. Yeah. Yeah, so here's how I think it is. At some place, I remember Terence McKenna always used to say, everything's made out of language. not little particles, not little tensor equations. If you think that the universe is made out of that, what a boring place you live in. And I really don't think that it's just the particles. For instance, the fifth dimension is the place of the loop and the warp of web of being, of the field. That's the unified field. That's in Lakesh, etched from the same field. That's what in Lakesh means. It doesn't mean I'm another you. That's just an interpretation. It means etched from the same field. And I know that not from anyone but my own Gnostic nomenclature, from hearing the ring or the tone of the word. And then you say, Ben, why is not every word Gnosis word? Because we have this surface virus and this organic portal stuff going on, the spiritless humans disconnected from their soul state. And you can see this mirrored in the world. This is not a crackpot theory. The whole system is set up to de-soul and dethrone you from your eye and your crown. The whole system, the matrix is like that. Anyway, so the fifth dimension is that living light, thick light. And once you cross the gate of heaven, the six-dimensional geometric archetype zone, you get into this more intangible place, these higher dimensions. Now the thing is, right now I'm explaining to you the manifestations of layers of light. However, the dimensions are not just that. They are worlds within worlds. There are beings there, and we have all these channelings, the Syrians from the fifth dimension. I'm a fifth dimensional sort of Syrian light warrior. We all know that much, the way I yell. And I have, and the other day when I did that status, the Pleiadians have the love and they can bring you home. The Octurians have algorithmic code, wherein what you give me, if the Octurian in me arrives and that spirit part of me arrives, it will algorithmic you. It will absorb what you're giving and complexify it and give it back, rigmarole it. And, I know all these energies, and this is just from feeling it. That's why I want to teach you to just feel it, Melissa. Don't necessarily listen to what everybody's saying, their exact wording. I mean, I think I've become okay at this and pretty impeccable sometimes, but still I'm saying, you don't just take everybody's word and that's it. Take in my word for sure, and take every man is your teacher. But that whole saying of the grain of salt, and what I told you yesterday, one being trying to gain enlightenment off another, or one human trying to gain enlightenment off another human, is like one grain of sand trying to gain enlightenment off another grain of sand, as Terence McKenna said. And the place of the now, what Eckhart Tolle talks about, what Alan Watts talked about all the time, and all the Buddhists and all these philosophies talk about, this moment of now, that's that fifth dimensional zone. That's the halfway point of the dimensional universe. Now the dimensions create down through the dimensions, wherein they add upon the lower dimension. They add to it like a stacking process, like an embedded stacking process. Now that's on the manifestations of the layers of light sort of idea. But then each one seems to be a world within a world. For instance, the third dimension looks like the only place we exist when we're not spiritually aware. When we're not connected to our higher dimension, you hear everyone call them sleepwalkers. I used to call them, pardon? Yeah, the zombies, the societals. But then I found that nomenclature of organic portal. And I got it. I went, oh, I get it. Organic, but portal. Like they're not in control. And, I do think that we're trapped within, so to speak, we are within cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle, right? It's a busy cosmos, right? And so I think the law of attraction definitely is, and there is also a law of division. You can disconnect from people. Have you noticed that? You lose connection with people? Yeah, so you want to keep it alive, or you want to keep attracting it, if you want to keep being friends. Yeah, so you've got it's a continual sort of process of, mounting it up and getting to the top of the mountain, so to speak. What's the top of the mountain? The asymptote. If you look on a graph, an asymptote goes up to a peak. Sorry, I can't figure out how to do this on the screen. Oh yeah, there we go. Which way am I going? Yeah. Oh, I've done it wrong on the screen. Don't worry about it. If you just look up asymptote, it's like a curve, and the asymptote is the top. And I think the shamans in general are the top of the paradigm of humanity right now and being human for one reason, because they've shifted out of all the grids. Like I said, I'm very asymptotic. I'm here to help people. Okay, we're back. Pardon me. I really shouldn't do that in the microphone. People hate that. So, I don't want to just fully discuss all the dimensions like forever, and I do it in like almost every video now because it's so exciting and it's better than talking about the football, so to speak. If you know what I'm saying. Something that matters at least a little bit. It's a real issue. You're playing games out there, people, while there's millions of people dying. I just want everyone to recognise this. And if you ever want to have a moment of silence for those who died in the elite orchestrated wars for money and profit, I think we should have more moments of silence for the people struggling today. That's just my opinion. Benjamin Kallenberg from consciousazine.com, but hey, I'm apparently a no one. Anyway, what we've been discussing is a 12-dimensional model, and we're model makers. And I do remember McKenna saying that. Terence McKenna always said that too. He said, yeah, we seem to be model makers. And I went, yeah, true. We make models and we try to reflect it back onto the universe, and figure this whole thing out. We don't know where we are. And they say, that Buddhist saying, if anyone ever figured out the universe, it would collapse. What if that's an individual high-dimensional sort of saying? Because once you go up in dimensional rungs, they are like that onion analogy. There's an analogy of that the dimensions are like onion layers. They get bigger and broader in their scope. And that's what I said before. They create down dimensionally, so the higher dimensions sort of have a higher influence, and they add on to the lower dimensions, and the lower dimensions have the effect of grounding out the higher dimensions. So that's why there's an argument sometimes when even vegetarians say, sometimes I eat meat to ground me out, because it brings you back into body. It brings you back into the second dimensional mineral body. The second dimension is the domain of objects, the things made out of stuff. And I think we should use things, not people. I can snot on my shirt and throw it away. What's wrong with that? Well, it's a little bit grotty. But the thing is, it's a thing. I'm not going to snot on a person. And so in the world today, it's a bad analogy, yes, sorry. But in the world today, we have that going on. We're using people and we're, lusting things, and the things, we're becoming the things. Now, we're doing this because we've got this quick lifestyle. We're eating the second dimensional food as well. What's second dimensional food? What the hell is Ben talking about now? Well, this is not far out actually. This is very correct. Second dimensional food is, listen, a non-fractal, non-living synthetic product. Stuff that the white coats make. That's a drug, not a natural plant entheogen spirit plant. Like ayahuasca, that's not a drug. Neither is cannabis. It's a herb. I don't know if you noticed with your own brain, or were you thinking with someone else's thoughts? And that's what I mean about being spiritually vertical. I think for me. I'm a thinker, ergo sum for me. Not ergo sum with everyone else's thoughts alone. Yes, they're there to use, and you can benefit off another man's writings and teachings and integrate it into your own. But we've got people just being horizontal, which makes you a second-dimensional person. There's no higher-dimensional spirits. There's nothing like that coming in. Now, spirits incarnate on behalf of souls. So when you're spiritless, you're disconnecting your own self. You're not bringing yourself into the world. You're not living your fairy tale, and you're going to be trapped on the wheel of karma. You're going to live the same circles. Man's life like that can go on forever, to the end of the earth. That's why we have been implanted with a surface virus, now here at the apocalypse to stop us, because it can go on to the end of the earth until they worship football. But it can just keep going on. These people are the crazies. I'm not crazy. I'm the mad scientist. I'm the crazy heretic guy. But that's not real craziness. That's genius. The crazy people are the people who are eating the synthetic food and becoming their bodies, and you're becoming satanic. Because in my other video I said the body is Satan relative and the ego is devil relative. And remember, the best trick the devil pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. So that's true, because look around at how many people think they don't even have an ego. Do you know how many people I talk to and they go, I don't have an ego then? I go, that means that you are your ego. See, I've got what's called a qualified ego. It's porous. It's qualified. The universe is qualifying it because it has use and it has reason and meaning, and it's not erroneous, and it's not just completely going like Eckhart Tolle has insinuated in New Earth. Yes, it's a New Earth, and yes, the ego is going to be dissolved largely, because that ego is not individuality. Ego is that thing that makes you want to get it over other people all the time, and it's very neurotic. It makes you neurosis into your second dimensional brain, into the things made out of stuff, your mineral clay body. The second dimension itself is said to be the domain of things made out of stuff, the little balls, the little particles, the little chemicals, the building blocks of notoriety, variety, and contrast. That's the second dimensional domain. Now people are turning into these bodies. We've just got bodies. This can go on forever until we wreck the earth and use all the resources. And we can't just use this system to get a corporate person, Richard Branson, to stuff up his space flight. This is pathetic. Mars has 6 times the iron ore than Earth. We don't need to be trapped in a scarcity-based system when the universe is abundant. This is what I need to get across to people. The whole picture has come together for us at the end of history. Everything. I have a saying, me personally, I said we collapsed into Earth. Terence McKenna said history ended in green, and then I also add to it by saying the pieces lay on the ground for anybody to pick up. What pieces? Well, it said the indigos dig at the roots of the tree of knowledge, and I sure do, and I eat those suckers. And I dig and I rustle the branches of the tree of knowledge. And that's what the indigos do. What's an indigo? Watch my video. But in the idgo, the higher self notion, being connected, having the chakras happening, and so on. Now, in this world, I think this is all coming together. We've got a desouling system, and it's further desouling people via its dynamics, via the dynamics of this hype, the inflation trapping people in, the socio-economic statuses always dividing. You know, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. All this stuff, we can go on all day. Obviously, I can just keep spewing it. But everyone understands what I'm talking about, so I can stop and just say, we need to figure out the actual etiology of what's going on. We can't just stuff around forever. The tigers are dying. You know, all the animals are dying. You know, we've got an animal holocaust out there. Yeah, you know, I'm lucky. I'm lucky on the North New South Wales coast here. I actually, I do have, well, what is happening here? Are we recording the whole time? Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure it is. Oops. I don't know what's happened. So, it's about to cut out. Oh no, we've got, sorry, we've got a while. Sorry, I was looking at the numbers. Let's get back on track. So, you know, yeah, I live in a beautiful place here, North New South Wales, Australia. In a way, I'm very lucky. They call it the lucky country, I get to surf with dolphins. I've had these things, they play with you. One jumped at me out of the water, landed only a metre in front of me, like smiled that it knew it was scaring the crap out of me. because it launched, and they're pretty big, and yeah, it was a literal moment like that. He knew what he was doing. He was smiling at me and scared the bejesus out of me, so to speak. Yeah. I've also got a video on that, and in my video I said they're 7th dimensional. In that way, because they work on the tones. Do you know, that's how I correlated it. Yeah. I went, well, it's not 5th dimensional, because water is 5th dimensional correlate. Water. Why? Because it's a membranic, and don't forget what we've learnt about the membrane being the smart part of the cell. The nucleus is not some kind of like overarching brain. It's like more like a bit of a factory, and makes the proteins and stuff. But the outside, and it's funny, it has a revelation for skin and how you can see disease coming through people's skin, and all this stuff connects. So water, I think, is a 5th dimensional correlate, Melissa, because it has that membrane notion. It takes on memory. Now, if you watch my water video in the $30 Bandit food plant teaching series, if you watch my water video from Kay Dream, I've done one for her, I actually found out that by spiraling water, it regenerates its unpolarized state. So in other words, it recalibrates it to a 0 point state. No, that's a bad example. I'm trying to look for the right word. It calibrates it to unpolarized state wherein it has no memory, like back to an original state, like cleans the slate. Yeah, it cleans the slate, and so then you can use that water to pick up memories again. And that's what water does. And we have Dr. Emoto's work with the intending of the monks and the water crystals and changing the water crystals. Now, do you see the dimensions in that? I want to explain. Because we've got the geometry, the shape of the water crystals changing. You've got the intention, which is all this high dimensional stuff, like, is willpower from the 10th dimension? I don't know. This is the stuff I've got to think about really thoroughly, what's going on in the high dimensions, and I can't figure it all out yet. But I do have some ideas. But so, we've got the... Yeah, isn't it? And now, this is for the future. Everybody listening right now, please. Everybody listening. So when we have these atom-making machines like Ralph Merkel and the head of biologies out there, all these headmasters of biology around the world are saying we're going to have atom-making machines like, Back to the Future, where you pop a little thing in the microwave and expands into a meal, stuff like that too. But they're talking about atom by atom, how we're building hearts already. We're building hearts out of 3D printers. Well, they're talking about atom machines, where you build whatever you want out of atoms. Now, that's a lifeless concept. Do you see the soulless concept, or the spiritless concept there? Yes, because it's a dead thing. You just say it's an atom. See how the universe cannot just be made out of freaking atoms, man? Hey, because that's a dead view. It's a dead... That's why scientists, organic portals are very good scientists, because they're on the surface information, the 3D info, the stuff that lands. They're not flying about up in the high dimensions. They're just looking at the stuff that's landing on the ground. That's a great analogy. That one just came out. So in the future, what we want to do is we want to insert the 7th dimensional, the tunnel harmonics. We're going to have to figure that out. How do we alter the particle? How do we change the wave? Not just, does the observer change the wave, the double slit experiment, or is that powerful decoherence? Not just that stuff. We're going to have to get really into it. And we're gonna see that people like me are visionaries, and the dimensions are, and this model of 12th dimensional model is. Now, my friend Brad, as I was telling you, he actually, I call him a light coder, and that would be like 8th dimensional, 7th dimensional, 8th dimensional schematics or code coordination, and then, the wave, the tunnel harmonics, the actual feel, the color of the wave, and so on, the 7th dimensional part of it, and then he's drawing it into 6-dimensional geometries, and he actually configured 16 dimensions. So there are different models, and today we're discussing a 12th dimensional model. I don't know the others, but you can see relativity in physicality of what I'm saying. So, yeah, so we're going to have to figure out how to add life. Cycle 1 of the universe is finished. 2012 was the addendum to the first bit of the universe, Cycle 1, which is reaction. Now we're moving to creation. And you can see that indeed we are the microcosmic reflection of like some kind of God, because we can alter atoms and ourselves. Go. Okay. Alright. Hello everyone, we're back. Is there anything you wanted to say, Melissa? Or? Yeah. Well, Terence McKenna used to always go on about elves. Everybody who knows Terence McKenna knows about his, well, not everybody, but everybody who's thoroughly listened to his lectures, and I don't know, I haven't read his books, but probably in his books as well, possibly in True Hallucinations, but you know, it's a very famous part of him that he talked about elves. Now, one time I had magic mushrooms, and they've got the chemical similarity to DMT, the world's most powerful hallucinogen, which I think is a future case use entheogen, and it's a crystal, notice, for the golden crystal age. Correlation. And I think it's going to be used to enhance our crystal room, which is the third eye, Danjen, or Tanchen from Taoism, or the upper mind, the crystal room. And right now people on the screen might be able to see a beam from my head. Now, yeah, we have that translinguistical lens coming out the forehead, as McKenna used to say it. Now, so he used to go on about elves, and he said one time, like my magic mushroom trip, one time stuff actually came out in front of me, and it seemed to come out. It wasn't inside anymore. Yeah, I wasn't looking in my eye. It was a vision that like came out into the world. One time this has happened for me. He said for him one time. He said long ago when he first tried DMT, or like one time early in his DMT days when he was younger, it happened. And an elf came into the room, he said, and, you know, was speaking to him, communication. Anyway, the thing is, he always used to say, and, you know, in the future we can do that and we can make it into a hologram. Anyway, let's not go into my super syntactical super suit, which I was just telling you about how, you know, we'll see our emotions through colour like a octopus on a suit, and we'll shoot translinguistical lens out the forehead of the suit and so on. Let's get back to what your question was. So McKenna always used to talk about these elves. Now, he said that he would go to a place. Now, I have not had DMT. I'm about to go to the Amazon to have the long-release DMT ayahuasca trip. Now, he smoked it, and he said after 2 puffs, the wave would come, and you would be in some dome. There's all this stuff he used to mention like that. Now, he said, these things, they were like self-dribbling basketballs, jeweled basketballs. They were jewelry. Yeah. And he said these things would sing objects into creation. They would go bleep, blop, bloop, bleep, blop, bloop, bloop, bleep, bloop, and it would come make an object, and they were trying to teach him how to do it. Yeah, that's what he said. Interesting, huh? Yeah. Yeah, I know, it rubbed me up the same way. I was just, you know, like, okay, very interesting. So, you know, a normal person, so to speak, might dismiss this, but anyway, I think there's something in it. Where do I think the elves are emanating from? I have no idea. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, Melissa, I'm not the person to tell you where the elves are emanating from. The thing is, the dimensions I was discussing are a little different. That's a model. if we step outside of that model, which is what we should always do, because it's only a model, and the universe is much more complex than just a model, and that's why it's silly to say that everything's made out of little particles and that's at the end of the story. So anyway, what did you want to say? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I used to always have like invisible friends when I was kids too. When I was a kid. Wow. Well, there you go. What do the shamans of the Amazons do with the largest pharmacopoeia on the world, bigger than Chinese herbal system and everything? Well, they get vision plants and they go for a walk and they have a friggin' vision, mate. And so in my video, the affinity between permaculture and spirituality, yeah, see, I've got a lot of videos already where I've sort of discussed some of this stuff sometimes. That's why I always refer to it. I said in that one, I went against Bill Mollison, the founder of the sort of permaculture mindset idea and nomenclature, and that Bill Mollison from Australia, he actually lives just around here. I went up against him in, they're getting pissed off that people are being too airy-fairy and bringing too much to the permaculture class that's not like rigid permaculture. They're very rigid older people. I suspect it's possible he is an organic portal. Just because he created permaculture does not mean that he's a spiritless human. It can easily, they're not bad people. Organic portal doesn't equal devil. they can incline that way, but they're not just bad people. So, hold on, I'm coming back. What was the question again? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, well, in that video, that permaculture spirituality video, I was saying, I understand what Bill and that are saying, but I think we should allow people to bring in those high dimensional aspects into there. Now, I don't know where the fairy emanates from. The thing, in my opinion, doesn't emanate from anywhere. In my opinion, the fairy is just like I am, existing like in all dimensions. Do you understand what I'm saying? It can end up as a toy figurine, as second dimensionally, or a person can take on that energy and dress like a fairy, and etc. But higher dimensionally, those essences are obviously floating around up there somewhere, so to speak. The idea of the fairy. Now, this could bring it together for you a little bit. I have an idea that there's an infinite timeless domain, and the light actually is God. The actual light, and that's not the fifth dimensional light, but what I've found through the dimensions is like correlation between dimensions. They work with each other in in ways like the fifth dimension would have correlation to the 10th dimension, the sixth dimension to the third dimension, and actually Rise of Fire from Gold Game of Enlightenment Abundance, he's really good at that. He'll say the correlation between how the chakras work and how the dimensions work. That's how good he is. Rise of Fire from Gold Game of Enlightenment and Abundance. That's where I've learned a lot of dimensional ideas from. That's not the only place, because I've put it all together from everything I've ever studied, basically, and everything I know. So, where's the fairy emanating from? I don't know. But the idea is that there's an infinite timeless domain, and that is what's actually pulling us from it's almost like a future state. And the idea that Terence McKenna gave us was the same. And I had a vision 6 months before I met McKenna, right at the end of the time wave. That's how special my relationship with him is, and I don't even know him. we're in sync. We're somehow in resonance, you see. Me and actual McKenna, I think, in resonance. Anyway, so something like that, anyway. There's some sort of resonance between us. Anyway, sorry, you distracted me with the ums and the ahs, and I couldn't think of the next thing to say. Yeah, right. I lose myself by myself anyway, so it's not hard to do, because this is complex talk, you know. No, just let me, I'm trying to think, Melissa, where I was. Yeah, so there's an infinite timeless domain, and here I had a vision that we're being pulled from the future. Then I found out McKenna actually thought that as well, and that was like part of his theory, that we're being pulled from the future, not being pushed from the, can you just let me talk? Not being pushed from the past out of nowhere for no reason. Because that's the idea of the Big Bang, that the universe is happenstance, it's meaningless, it just has come out of nowhere for no reason. We don't know, so therefore it's come out of nowhere for no reason. I actually like rainbow cosmos theory, that there's like no time limit and there's different, you know, it goes along the different gamma, the different electromagnetic spectrums having different time lengths. Very interesting, because they are different wave oscillations, so it would make sense. Anyway, so he had an idea, like I had a vision 6 months before I even met the fella, that we're being pulled somehow like from the future, and it makes sense because the presumably least complex state of the universe was when the Big Bang, the electron field, just electrons, that's it. It formed more complex atoms than complex biology, and here we are, you know. RNA, DNA, into very complex biology, and here we are, macro beings. We're made up of all these other little beings. Remember, there's 10 times more bacteria on your body than there are cells. So it's very hard to remain you if you don't look after your bacterium biomicrodome. It's very hard to remain yourself. That's why I use a lot of coconut oil. Almost every day I'm putting coconut oil on my skin, also to regenerate my liver. Anyway, back to what I was saying. It makes sense that we're being pulled from the future because it's a more complex state. This is what the time wave showed us, and it's just obvious that the universe is a complexity conserving and creating machine. It creates it and conserves it. And so it makes sense that a future, more complex state has more power, just as the computers are getting better and better, and we can do more and more stuff on the better computers, right? So it makes sense that we're being pulled from the future, and not just from some electron Big Bang field. You know, the microwave background noise. See, they think they're noise. That's why they're lost. I'm a way shower. I see the way, and I see that there is a vector of the universe called a lighted pathway. Now the darkness, the dark ones, those who remain in darkness, who choose to stay in the dark, they notice they'll always be confused, they'll always question. I mean, I'm not talking about healthy questioning. You should see me, I'm a healthy questioner. I ask questions. Don't just take things face value and so on. But they ask, like, they're lost questions, what they do. They're in confusion, and the darkness knows itself to have all thoughts existing away from the stream. So what am I? I'm the opposite. Because I'm a way shower of the lighted pathway and the golden light, which is the central light. So it's very interesting. We can see that we're being pulled via a vector, and this is this asymptotic notion. McKenna had the same notion, and this all blew me away. How this is amazing. He had the notion that there is we're like pulled magnetically up the cone, or if you turn the cone upside down the cone, we're rolling along the edge. You might think of a marble rolling down into the pinnacle of the cone, and then you're sucked across the next eye, and then into a new ontos. And ontos is from ontology, which is the study of the nature of being. So we're going into a new ontos. Now what's that? The fifth dimensional earth. The age of Aquarius! Free love and da-da-da. Yeah, and so we're moving into a new ontos, which is a fifth dimensional earth. Now what does that mean for people? Well, it means more free love, and the fifth dimension is that membranic idea, remember? And it's always going to be about connection and sort of membrane. So the om sound just helps you clear the third eye. Another one is an in, and you should feel it start to expand your sinus. Now what is happening with this sound? What's happening with this sound is that it's creating a certain vibration on the larynx in your throat, which is vibrating the third eye, or open, or revealing it via vibrating all the density away. And the more and more denseness you feel there, good, it's clearing in your eye, clearing. You can pull it apart like that. Sorry, I'm showing on the video. You can pull it apart like that. That's what I often do as well. Pull it apart. Pardon me. I just had a little burp. Because I'm a cherub. Okay, so that's called the throat friction. The last one I just taught you is called the throat friction from Samuel Sagan. And if you go on to the meditation page in www.consciousazine.com, it's there. Or you can just go onto YouTube and you can find his talk, Throat Friction. But otherwise, the om sound is a good one. Om, and you do mudras too. Do all the mudras. Anyway, let's talk about some stuff that Melissa wants to talk about health, and I want to help her kids a bit. So is there anything specific before, because I've got heaps of suggestions, so. No, because you might forget, I guess, so it's probably better for you to ask. I don't know, I was at a girl's place a while ago, I remember like a year ago, and I remember, yeah, I have a good memory sometimes. I remember a little thing with how to check for breast lumps and stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be something wrong, does it? I don't breastfeed, so I don't know if it hurts, but I'm pretty sure it hurts every time you guys do it, doesn't it? Like the little baby's teeth and stuff on there, or no? Or, oh, okay, alright. So they don't. Okay. So you've got a pain. Yeah, well listen, I am a shaman doctor, but I'm not a, really book-based medical doctor. Do you understand? Like, there is a big difference. Like, I can tell you a lot more about, for instance, here's a saying that Terence McKenna said. I love quoting that guy, what a smart guy. He said, there's no, psychology without psychedelics is like pissing into the wind. Now why? Well, because the ego, I reckon. I reckon that's what he meant, yeah. But, because you're kind of just pissing into the wind reading books and trying to do psychology on yourself sometimes. You don't get too far sometimes. But, we're getting better and better at that naturally, on the natch anyway. And I don't want to hear anyone going, oh, we don't need psychedelics and you can do it all on the natch. Hey, I have plenty of natural visions and I do both. That's right, we're amalgamen, we do it all. We don't dismiss part of reality as irony. So instead of answering your questions, Melissa, look, to be honest, I don't want to give you a bad vibe and say, oh, I don't want to answer your questions. However, in the last year, I was thinking to myself that that's not my way. It doesn't seem to be how I can perform. And it's almost going to be like a waste of your money, so to speak. Like, the only thing you can really do with an oracle like me is listen. There's nothing you can really do. Like, you can't ask a question and expect them to know everything, right? You can't expect me to know everything. I know what I know, and therefore, shouldn't I speak what I think I know? Because it's easier and it's going to be more beneficial and better put together and so on. I mean, I can research that for you in our own time, but I've got no answer for that on the video. So what I'm going to do is go back to what we were talking about yesterday and, like, helping your kids. And, yeah. Yeah, I want to put your kids into a higher vibrational state. This will help them cope with everything from feeling what neuroendocrine secretion, hormonal secretions they're secreting. Are they secreting cortisol? Do I feel like serotonin-ish right now? Do I feel doped out in dopamine? You know, so the more lucidity you get to yourself and the more higher vibration you have, you seem to be able to feel the lower vibrations, because if you think about the oscillation of the waves, it's reading it more, and a slower wave going through it, you know. A higher vibrational wave has more reading ability. It's touching in many more spots. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you could probably Google it and understand what I'm talking about online. But anyway, so like it's more informational, and you're going to pick up more. And I think it's a good idea to not just be vegan. You know, like David Wolfe says, even. In my opinion, David Wolfe and Dr. Kazara are number 1, number 2 in the world for health. There's no Dr. McCullough. None of them are as good as David Wolfe. He knows what he's doing, because he did it and he lived it. And he went the hard road, and that's what I've done too. And that's why some people will say, oh, Ben, you're really smart. Well, I went the hard road, and I made sure I learnt it for myself. And the funny thing is, I always get shown later. I get taught harshly and stuff, and then I get shown later proof and all this stuff. It's really weird. It's like, otherwise, if they showed me the other way, I wouldn't believe it or something. And other people wouldn't believe me. I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to what I was talking about. The high vibration thing. So, do you eat Himalaya Soleil? No. I'll explain in a second. Oh, okay, I'll explain. But, I forgot what I was mentioning about David Wolfe, where we were at just before. I have to go back into that circle. It happens sometimes, sorry. Anyway, so what I want to do is get the charge up on your children by giving them Himalaya Soleil drinks. Now that's going to sound a bit crazy. Just stay tuned, folks. So Himalaya Soleil is a deeper strata layer. It's crystal more than it is like stonish. The Himalaya salt's more like stone-like. And you know how there's like 82 trace minerals in there? And I think Mackenzie's, not Saxa, salt is the best. Saxa has no black dark bits. Mackenzie's had black dark bits, which is actually anti-parasitical. That part of the Himalaya salt, because it's approaching Shilajit. Shilajit is like even more powerful than the Himalaya Soleil. And that's like this dark sort of tarry almost looking colour substance, like brown, and its strata layers deeper as well than the Himalaya salt. So Himalaya salt is fine, and you can feel the difference in vibration in all these too, in all these foods. So the Himalaya Soleil, you fill the jar, there's like 3 crystals in a jar. It reduces the crystals by 26% by the time you take all that water out and you use it over like months and months. You just take a little teaspoon in the morning, or add a teaspoon to the drink I'm about to teach you. You fill it back up and it goes back down another 26%. Each time you fill the water up, it takes 26% of the crystals away. And so you can actually use the same jar like three times or something. I think I used it. And so yeah, it lasted, I don't know, like a year and a half for $7. Yeah, wow. Now, recently I've made videos showing that they're charging iPods of fruit. And the notion is, obviously, life force, and eating alive things. That's why I said earlier, you don't want to have synthetic drugs which are non-fractal beings and made by the crazy white coats in the laboratory, and who's, man's only been stuffing around for 10 years when the planet has been doing it for millions and billions of years, So that's why I trust the mushrooms and so on. Much more, anyway. So this drink, the Himalaya Soleil, you would want to put it with hibiscus and blue-green algae, because you're getting phycocyanin, the blue pigment, which is one of the most famous blue pigments out there at the moment, and blue pigments are very rare, and so if you want to be a rainbow child, it makes sense to be that, right? In all ways possible, right? Why not soak it up? It's a magnificent universe with some cool stuff to do. Why, you lock everything out? That's fear. Fear locks things out, doesn't it, Melissa? So, yeah, so we know love is the concressive force, I call it. Concrescence is where things coincidentia oppositorum into higher state beingness, basically. You are a concrescence walking in the woods because you're more complex than the wolf next to you or the bear next to you or whatever. We can make things made out of stuff pop out of our hands. We make computers. Just look at us go. So, anyway, I'll swing back around. I won't keep going on forever. We can tangent in many directions. This drink with hibiscus, so, hibiscus is the sweetener. That's why I mix it with the hibiscus, because it makes this whole drink taste good. And it's going to be like a cordial. Cordial is all sugar and stuff, and we don't want to have high fructose corn syrup and all this stuff. That causes cancer and all this stuff, and get your insides all sticky and you don't feel good. You don't feel as flowing, your cells don't like it. It's like a muck for them. It's like a muck, and they don't want to swim around in that, do you? So the charge, when you charge yourself with these minerals, I've noticed, I eat less as well. So that will keep them in a more high vibrational state, because remember, just about every yogi through the years, and David Wolf reiterated this on stage, you eat less to live longer so you can eat more. Yeah, it's just a funny way of saying it, but the idea is, fasting, basically, and just not overeating, because we're pushing breakfast, lunch, dinner, pushing. And the idea is to sometimes not just be pushing, not just every day, all day, turning yourself into a rubbish dump or something and eating bad foods. And so when you have charge in your body, I've noticed I eat less, so that's one good point for it. Secondly, the hibiscus mixed with the blue-green algae and the Himalaya Soleil, and you can put other teas in there, obviously, for flavour or for use. I actually mix up to 20 teas at a time. So you go nuts, do what you want, but that basic combination will be good enough for them to drink. I actually sort of took that recipe off Dr. Kazar a bit. He has a lot of videos that you guys could benefit from as well. Dr. Robert Kazar, and he's out of Hawaii, and he will show you how to clean your skin better than anyone else I've seen. Yep, he has a video called Clearing It All Out, Clearing Your Skin Out, really good video. Anyway, that's a little drink, and that's a little thing that I'd love to see you do for your kid and kids and anyone else out there. So there's a few things I wanted to discuss to tell you more. You said the other day your kid likes fruit, which is awesome, and I think it's great that some of these kids, their favourite thing is doing a little tincture or a tonic or an elixir here and there, and that's really cool, right? Because that's going to make a really interesting new world. Now, I reckon what I think is that we need to have apothecaries everywhere and push for that as well. We don't have apothecaries anywhere, well, not many. And like, for instance, I'm going to a healing centre that doesn't have tinctures, tonics and elixirs even. It's just like meditate, yoga, We need to expand our horizons into new horizons. And eclectic is the notion of the Andromedan enlightenment, the Andromedan galaxy, which is the current enlightenment via the Arcturian alignment. And you've noticed how the star beings, the Ceres, Pleiades, and Arcturus have spoken together in unison for a unity wave to come upon Earth. In 2011 was the galactic Mayan underworld wave. Hello, we're back, and I've stuffed up because with my headphones we couldn't hear Melissa, so now we're going to listen to Melissa for a minute.
Hi everyone, my name's Melissa from New Zealand. I didn't realise you couldn't hear me before, but that's all good. You ended most of the talking.
Yeah.
So we're all good. So we're going to continue with what we were doing for the children.
I apologise. Yeah, we will. I apologise to everyone for the sound of the recording because it was a little bit stuttery because I had my headphone in and I don't know if something's going on with it. But now it should sound better again. So let's just keep going. Don't look back, Melissa.
Oh, I know. Hey. I'm all good. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Okay.
What was that? Oh yeah. So. Though I did remember, and this always happens, it comes back to me eventually, what I was trying to say about David Wolf and what he was saying. It was about the whole thing about, if you've been vegan for the last 20 years, that might be right for you, but it might not be right for everyone else. Now, why not? I can answer that a little bit. Blood type eating is one thing I found out about. I have an O positive blood type, which means, and O negatives are even worse than me, it means that I need lean meat. I've gone online, I've found a little chart of some medical doctor who's made up a chart of eating, but I like how he made his chart, because he didn't say stop eating this, he said eat more of this and less of this. So I'm to eat more walnuts and less of normal peanuts for some reason. And what's the reason? In the end, why do I eat this food and that food? More kale, I'm going to eat white fish more, and etc. Because the way we digest lectin apparently is the difference in the blood type eating. Now the science I think is not very sturdy and it's not very big and there's not a lot surrounding it yet. Last time I looked, which was like, I don't know, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or something, but it's new sort of understanding, but the basic idea apparently is it's the way we digest lectin, so the way we digest and stuff, and if there's different blood type eating, that obviously that to me signifies once again individuality over simple broad axioms which are airhead notions. To think that everyone can fit under one umbrella is always a bit of a silly idea, isn't it? Because we're individual, and I don't think there's other universes right now. I actually think that we are each a universe, and the universe is actually, there's going to be a universe coming out in each souled vector. Actually, each kind of soul is its own universe.
I would agree, actually.
It's a different viewpoint from the mainstream, and I think they're mistaking multi-dimensionality, so multi-universality, for multi-dimensionality. This model, the 12th dimensional model I've been telling you about, and I've actually gone into that on the science page. Let's bring this back to the eating and your kids and the kids of the future, because I understand this, so this is actually pretty important. I'm saying this to myself right now, this is pretty important because these are the children of the future who are going to create the new world. So, I mean, I can't stuff up here. Pressure. So, there's videos like by Teal Swan on what foods can help you have a more open eye. For instance, a hot shower raises your vibration. But why and how? This I've heard no one say. Why and how? Why should a hot shower raise one's body and mind? Well, what if it is raising one out of body into mind? You know, and that's what I think it's doing. I think it's an efferent nervous system cure. The efferent nervous system is like the capillaries, the outer nervous system. The CNS is the central nervous system, and that's why we do Mantak Chia orchestrated microcosmic orbit. You can look up Mantak Chia. He's a master. He's a Taoist. That's why we do the Kundalini technique, which I learned from Saharasa or the Google Tech Talks video. All this is in consciousazine.com. Whoa, what's that? Was that you?
Sorry.
You're right. What was I saying?
Sorry.
Oh yeah, everything's in consciousazine on the meditation page that if I mention a meditation. Anyway, so, and there's another point. Meditation, you know, you really need to get your kids to meditate. If they're crystal, indigo, rose, rainbow children, starseed's birthing on gear, we need to facilitate that in the right way, and that is the wrong way to facilitate them, or not facilitating them, would be to give them, you know, the normal food, and that will bring them back down into body. I actually had one whole 7 years of this, a whole cell cycle, and it's funny that it was 7 years. Melissa liked numbers. Why 7? What did 7 mean? It was only one cell cycle in 7 years that I ate bad food in my life, and it was for reason and meaning, because I can see the rest of my life I'm not going to, and I'm a big healer, and that reason was my 7, you know, the 7 Jesus fish, my Maitreya Christ energy that I carry. I'm actually a Maitreya Christ carnation energy as well, amongst other things. So if we facilitate people like these crystal children, it's going to fall on people like me, people like David Wolf, and so on. The people that, you know, are the spirited humans. Don't go to the organic portal people. They can't help you. They'll just they'll give you another illness while they're trying to fix you by giving you a bloody antibiotic or something stupid. That's how genius our medical doctors have become. Anyway. Not. So, to facilitate these young, high vibrational kids, definitely meditation is obviously like number one. So obviously you have air. Let's go through element eating. David Wolf's friend, what's his name? Something Vitalis. David Vitalis? No, it's something Vitalis. Daniel Vitalis. He has actually got this notion from him. He also does element eating through the elements, you know, purifying your water, purifying your earth element, which I think is like root vegetables and stuff, you know?
Yes.
Purifying your air element. So here's one we can talk about for just a second. The air element's pretty important. It's obviously the top one because it's the lightest. Well, obviously ether, or, you know, meditating and reinitializing your fifth dimensional light body is like, you know, the top. But I mean in a grounded third dimensional way of the elements. So sticking with, you know, a very grounded, just we're talking third dimensionally now. I'm not going to mention, you know, ether and etc. Number one is obviously air. Now we've got Fukushima, we've got fallout, so if you live in America, this one definitely goes for you. I've seen Geiger counters of too much radiation in the air. That Dr. Kazar said that in California it was actually double than it was at Hawaii. It was 0.6 instead of 0.3 at Hawaii. So there is a notion of that in the world. I just want to make everyone aware of that, the air element in your health and radiation in the air. How do we stop that radiation in the air getting pulled into our thyroid? Well, we take iodine. I actually bought David Wolf's Nascent iodine to try the quote-unquote best, you know, so that if I buy it locally after that, I've tried the so-called best and I can correlate and see, you know, what's better, cross-reference. So yeah, I'm not just like a product fiend. So we use iodine. At the moment I'm using Nascent iodine, and I forgot to bring it in today for you. Sorry, Melissa, I was in a rush. It doesn't matter because I can explain it like this anyway. It'll leave a yellow patch, that's fine. But the actual liquid iodine will soak in to your wrist, and you put it on your wrist. Just, it's a good place to put it. I put it on my forehead, I put it on my neck and everything, but you put it on your wrist. And because I notice it raising my vibration, so I put it in all these weird spots where my vibration's low. So that's how I actually move. So this Nascent iodine stops your thyroid pulling radioactive iodine, 133 I think it is, out of the air. So that is something to take note of, my friends. Okay? Next, the water element. Very, very important because it has been totally corrupted. We are drinking our own piss poo mixed with chemicals through a tap. Through a metallic tap. This is just utter shit. This is the pits. This is as bad as it gets today. This is it. It's not getting much worse than this. You're drinking your own piss and poo mixed with chemicals, for fuck's sake. So remember, we've already talked about...
disgusting.
Yeah, we've talked about water being a fifth-dimensional correlate, and how when you spiral water, it reinitializes its unpolarized state. It cleans the slate of memory off water. So, when we are continually recycling the same water, and we're not doing it via the right dynamics, there's no centrifugal spin and, you know, specifics of the energy changing of water, nowhere. You know, they just put it in big vats and, yeah, they spin it around in that way, but it's just got the piss and the poo and the chemicals in it, so it can't reinitialize like that, just with the crap in it. That reinitialization of water, when it's clean, happens when it spirals. There's a website, I actually made a video on it. Anyway, so obviously the water element has been corrupted, and we need to really think about purifying it. So number one, the shape matters. Sorry, I'm trying to find the camera. You put it in a womb-like shape, and it's how the earth holds water. Okay, the earth doesn't hold water in a plastic bottle that's square. It totally ruins water. I notice the difference. I notice the actual difference in energy of water that I drink. Every water I drink from any tap anywhere now. I'm well aware of what's going on. So firstly, I just want everyone to realize the shape matters. For instance, here I've got a nice little bottle. See this? Just because it's a better little bottle than like the normal shape. I thought, and when I tip it, the way it comes out, it's just that little bit better. So we're always trying to push higher and higher and better. So the shape matters, but what else matters with the water is the purification. So I was using there's the idea of distilled water being, 100% clean water. If you keep drinking distilled water, it will actually strip the minerals and vitamins from your body. So you're not meant to just drink distilled water all the time. You would do it now and then. You would do it for that exact reason, as an almost detox cleanse thing, and to purify you. But if you do that, sometimes you'll add Himalaya Soleil to the water because you're remineralizing it. You could add a bit of orange or lemon juice for some vitamins, you see, and you can build your water back up and make it actually fantastic, and eclectic. Now, when you do, let's get away from distillation. When you do filter it, I was using a $80 filter from Bunnings Warehouse in Australia, and it was a ceramic filter. I did not like how the top container was plastic. However, it did end up sitting in a ceramic reservoir, so it ended up, kind of making it a bit better again. However, I still could taste the plastic, and I'm off it. I hate it. I don't like the plastic. Plastic acts as, the biphenyl A in plastic acts as estrogen in the brain, and this is specifically not good for older people because you're already undergoing a process called aromatization, which is the over-estronized over-estrogenialization of your brain, things like testosterone turning to estrogen, other neuroendocrine hormonal secretions turning to estrogen, and it ages you. So that's actually called aromatization, and we can stop that with things like passion flower tea, and there's other ways to stop this. And obviously taking progesterone tablets and stuff. Now, 1 second. Oh yes, so that's why I like to avoid plastic, because the biphenyl A, and we've got an estrogenized world. There's estrogen floating about everywhere. Notice how much Tupperware people use, plastics everywhere. Then, not to mention that we eat in a Stockholm Syndrome psychopathic way, we eat with nickelware, trying to mimic our captors, the royals, and their silverware, which is water element. So let's talk about the earth element. Obviously the ether element, let's talk about the ether element, so I will bring it in, because I believe there are 5 elements and the ether element is there. Which is what's the ether element? It's the notion of what, the Planck length, maybe? Max Planck found the Planck length? The Planck scale, maybe. Maybe that's a 5th dimensional correlate. Maybe that is the living light membrane layer, that's the length, that's just the scale, the Planck length. You can go online and look at the scale of the universe little tool, and it takes you through. It's a slider, and it takes you from the biggest things to the universe to the smallest, and it's got some stuff on there. That's a really cool thing to show your kids, actually, please. Scale of the universe tool 2. I want you to take your kids to that after, because it's very interesting, Melissa. And it's in a like cartoony format. It's in a kid-friendly format and everything. So they've done a good job.
Okay.
And I can make that for anyone who wishes to summon my services in the future. I study IT, and I can make something like that out of Adobe Flash creation, just if anyone ever wants to know. Okay, yeah, so we're talking about the element of ether and meditation and mind being over matter and clearing out. So it's very important, because during the daytime we judge people with our eye, and you're not going to ever stop doing that. You know, even the Buddha is doing that because he has to be alive in the 3rd dimension. You have to use the eye. It correlates with the 6th dimension, all this stuff. Anyway, so you're going to be judging, because that's how we make our brain schemata, right? We judge things, and we make models, and we measure things. We make pattern matching, and etc. We make our brain schemata. Neuroscientists say use it or lose it. So when we're meditating, what I think is we're actually getting out of a neurotic state. What's neurosis? There's no definition out there like that's good enough for me. My definition of neurosis is that whatever definition is out there plus this. Neurosis is where you become, it's a 3rd dimensional notion. It's where you become the schemata, and your brain turns into basically a rock. Like Rudolf Steiner said, don't turn to stone. If you read his books, he said something about turning to stone. 2 people have mentioned it to me, David Wolf and my friend Anna Key from consciousazine. And I think this is in one way how he meant it, because boy is that guy hard to understand, that Rudolf Steiner. So neurosis is where we're becoming these loops, and if you don't meditate right and enough, not just lotus, not just alpha in lotus position with some mudras, not just that. We're talking all these techniques I've taught you on the meditation page in consciousazine, the kundalini, and you know, the chi and the prana and whatever else. What we want to do is move the recalibration, the unpolarization through here. And when we're meditating, and that's that 5th dimensional correlate I just mentioned, but when we're meditating, you've just got to remember you're becoming more brain plastic. So in other words, you are using it more, and as neuroscientists say, use it or lose it. So what happens during the day in repetitive tasks in this solar system where we are acting as robot people, because when the robots come in about 10 years from now, they're going to take most of the jobs, and people are going to do what? They're going to turn to dreaming and meditating.
and the world will self-heal.